Pastor Carlos Rincon. This is Avance Latino from East Los Angeles, and we're happy to have this program tonight. This is a very special program. This is a topic that is very important, even though we're going to be talking about pastors, faith leaders, but actually this information applies to everyone that is interested about retirement. This is about planning about the future. We don't know the future. That's why we need to plan. So this is a very important topic that we're going to be having a discussion with Jason. Jason not only is a financial advisor, he has his own firm, but he's my son-in-law also. So this is a family program, and I'm happy to be hosting this program and happy to have Jason as as the expert that is going to be teaching us about how to plan for a retirement. And if you're a pastor, and if you're part of that selected, special group called to the ministry, welcome. Even if you're seeing the program later, this is a very important topic to me because, like many of you as a pastors, we always struggle with finances, with money, and sometimes we think, the last thing that we think is about retirement, especially when we're young. I consider myself young still. But I wish I could have started, sooner, planning about my retirement. But well, I'm doing it now. I started about I don't know, a few years ago. But let me introduce Jason, okay? Because I've been talking a lot. So, how are you, Jason?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're gonna be part of this discussion, because I know you're passionate about finances.
Mm-hmm.
So besides being married to my daughter, why you became interested on finances? Tell us a little about yourself, a little about your
Sure.
background.
Yeah.
It's good people that are watching us to get to know you.
Absolutely. So thanks for having me, first of all. So about myself, how to get into the topic of finances.
Yes.
Finances were not something I was born good at, by the way. But for those of you that have been around since at least 2008, you might remember the big market crash we had in 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it was just terrible. I mean, it was a real estate crash, stock market crash, everything just went bad.
Yeah.
And so during that time, my family owned a restaurant up in San Jose. So they owned an Italian restaurant there, and they owned it for probably
Italian restaurant?
Italian restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably about 13 years, I think, at that point. And this was up in San Jose in the Bay Area,
Okay.
little city suburb called Willow Glen.
Okay.
And in Willow Glen, a little bit of an upscale area. It was a nice area. And some of their clients were companies like eBay, Cisco. They did a lot of catering for companies like that. And everything was going good for quite a while. Everything was just going smooth. And then 2008 came, and it felt like almost overnight, where all the money was coming in for catering and events. All the tech companies were, hiring and just getting lots of food for their employees, to everything going to zero, basically, very quickly.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so my family's financial situation changed very quickly. And it went from, they had the house, they had the nice cars, everything was going good, to almost an overnight change where, we were wondering, well, how are we going to pay for everything if the businesses aren't coming in and doing catering and the restaurant's slowing down and everything like that. And so over the next couple of years, I saw my family go through a lot of struggles financially.
Yeah, it was a hard time.
Yeah.
Very hard time.
And before
our
that,
families.
I didn't really think about finances much. I didn't know about them. I was mostly in school, and I was working as a server in a restaurant, a little bit of bartending. So I would just make tips. So all I had to think about was just today.
Yeah, okay.
And if I ever was running short of money, it was like, well, I'll just go pick up a shift. I'll get some tips, and I'll be able to pay the bills. I'll find a way to do it. But after that time, 2008 to 2009 is a long time. For those that might have remembered back in February and March of 2020, when the coronavirus hit, the market dropped about 30% or 35% at that time, but it was only for about 30 days.
Yeah, only. Yeah.
Okay, so that was a very short time. Imagine if, everything was down for 1.5 years, maybe 2 years at that point, and how much you might be wondering if things are ever going to get back to normal.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about that time. I I look at my retirement plan that I had those days. It wasn't a lot, but I lost almost like 35% of value in my retirement. I
Yeah.
was kind of, what should I do? I left it. Thank God I didn't touch it, but
And we'll talk about that today.
Okay.
Right. The right thing to do is always to leave it. Okay. Then you should never take your money out when the market's
Yeah.
down. So we'll talk about that. But what I saw during that time, my parents were about 55. And I know they had been working with somebody who was calling themselves a financial planner, a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And this term is not regulated. Okay. So for anybody that's looking for a financial advisor, you want to look for somebody who's a certified financial planner, okay? Because you have protections in place if you work with somebody as a certified financial planner. That's what we are. But they're working with somebody who's a financial advisor, and they were saving, I think it was about $1,300 a month for over a decade, okay? And this advisor was having them put all of their money into different insurance products, like called whole life insurance policies.
Famous whole life.
Yeah, cash value insurance policies, which, listen, all financial instruments have a place and they're useful in certain areas.
Yeah.
But for people that are starting out, that are saving from nothing or just early, that's probably not the right place to put money. So long story short, what happened is they're putting over $1,000 a month in for probably 10 to 13 years.
Wow.
And when the market turned, they went to go to their accounts to see, to pull money out to possibly pay the bills and, make sure everything went smooth. And what should have been, if they were in good investments, okay, if they were in good investments, the way we're going to talk about, and the way I've shown you to do things, they would have had probably $300,000 to $500,000 sitting there over that time.
1,000 a month, for 10 years, it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe 13 years.
13 years, I'm sorry.
But they had less than $100,000,
Wow.
at that point. And what I realized at that time was, I need to figure this out for myself, because I don't want to be 55 and realize that I don't have enough money to retire, to be able to take care of myself if something like this were to happen. So I didn't know anything about financial advisor or any certified financial planners. I knew nothing about that. So I just started reading,
Okay.
and so I went to the library and started getting books and just started reading everything I could. And I think I read over 100 books, over the course of the next few years.
Wow.
And so at that time,
Everything about finances.
everything about finances, everything about saving money, investing money, budgeting, what investing was, because I knew nothing. Where I came from, I grew up for a point in my life. I had a single parent household. My mom was working one job as a server, and so we didn't have really extra money. We had to put our clothes on layaway. I don't know if you remember Mervyn's. Remember Mervyn's?
Yeah, I remember when they closed Mervyn.
Right. But Mervyn's was great because, you can go shop during the sale, put the stuff that was on sale during the summer or whatever it may be on layaway, and then pay it off. And so by, usually by September, we'd have what we need for school. We'd have a new set of clothes. We'd have one pair of shoes a year, and that's what we got.
Okay.
And then anything above that, we had to get on our own. That was my family's lifestyle. And so we learned to do little side jobs and businesses, and, we'll talk about that. But long story short, I wanted to learn for myself because I saw what was going on. And then I learned about the concept of investing and something we'll talk about in a little bit, compound interest. Okay.
Yeah.
Compound interest is something that's so important.
Yeah, I believe Einstein said something about compound interest.
Yeah. I believe he said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world.
Yes.
Okay. And so it can work against you though.
Yeah.
If you have credit card debt,
Yes.
compound interest
That's
works
in
against
reverse.
you. Okay. It's in reverse. Exactly. But if you are saving and investing for yourself over time, compound interest can make you a lot of money. And what I learned was, the first thing I did was I had to have a plan for myself, and I did a budget, and I saw that if I was wasting $450 a month on just food, eating out at lunch every day for work.
Yeah.
And then I learned about compound interest. I learned what, if I put that $450 away every month between my age, I think 28 or 29 at that time, all the way to 65, I would have about $1.3 million.
Yeah.
And so someone said this to me before, not to me before, but I was watching a video or some training I was watching. And they said, well, what's that hamburger worth to you that you're eating out? Is it worth $1 million to eat out every single day? And so I just went through a process
But
where...
a lot of people don't understand that. And sometimes when they hear things like this, they think that is not true. That, no, that's too much. More than $1 million just by saving that little.
It really is true, and
It is. I know that it is, but a lot of people don't believe it.
it's true. Absolutely, people don't believe it, and so that's where we want to. I think we want to talk about that today. But how I got to where I'm at is I read all these books. I wanted to learn more, and then I went to go get help for myself because I had a job finally where I was getting some money and getting what's called stock options from work, where they give you a little bit of company stock as part of your pay, and I didn't know what to do with them, and so I went to go try to get help, and I couldn't find anybody to help me. They either wanted me to have $500,000 or they wanted to sell me a whole life insurance product. That was what I found out there. And to be honest, the industry, about 80 to 90% is still like that.
Yeah.
So then I found out about a program called to become a certified financial planner. And so I started taking the classes just on my own. I took the first class. I paid $600 and started learning. And I just felt really like excited when I was learning. Wow. And then I started talking to other people, my friends. And I was the place I was working, I was a sales manager working in the finance area. And I would look at hundreds of people's financial situations. And I saw a trend where just so many people were just bad with their finances. And so I became almost like, evangelical. I want to talk to everybody about this,
You want to evangelize about finances.
Yeah. So to our pastor friends, when you learned about Jesus, you wanted to tell everybody, right? You want to share.
Yes, of course.
And so that's how I felt about finances.
Yeah.
And so I just started taking the classes, and then I found out, I can make a career out of this. And I found out there wasn't a lot of good people, helping the way that they should be. And so I ended up deciding, I want to start my own business, and I want to do this for a business. And so I did the right things that I needed to do, which was I paid off all my debt. Okay. I saved for 7 years while I was working and getting ready to start my business, paying off my debt. And then I decided to quit my job and pursue my business. But it just didn't happen overnight. And so now it's been over 6 years.
Okay.
We now have clients in, I think, 37 or 38 states.
37. Wow.
Hawaii, Alaska, all the way to Florida, Maine, New Hampshire, Texas,
Do you
everywhere.
have some here in California?
Of course, California. Of course, California, where we live. But now, and we were doing things online before the pandemic. But now we have just been serving people online doing this and providing retirement guidance, retirement advice, and helping people get their financial futures in place now for 6 years. And so that's how I got to where I'm at.
You are a certified financial advisor.
Yeah, certified financial planner.
Planner, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Not advisor, planner.
Yes.
Yes. Well, so, hopefully, all the questions they're going to be asking are the questions that you have. But if you have more questions, maybe, write it in the comments. Maybe for a future program, we can respond to those questions. But let's start from, basics. A lot of people tell me when I talk about retirement, they say I don't have enough money to to save. I don't have I live check by check. What do you say to those people that don't want to start a retirement plan?
Yeah. So the first place I start with people is I ask them, have you actually written down all of your expenses and then looked at what you're bringing home for income every month? Okay. Because about 90% of people, okay, there are about 10 to 15% of people that literally they are living check to check. But in my experience, even working with a nonprofit, and we work with people there, average income $35,000 to $50,000, and that's in LA, Los Angeles. That's considered very low income there.
Yes, it's considered almost poverty.
Yeah. And the clients that we have worked with there, 100% were able to save at least $50 a month. 100%. So the questions I start to ask are, I'll look at, what kind of car are you driving? How much is your car payment? Right? How many times do you eat out per month?
Yes.
How many Starbucks do you buy? And there's people that really can't, okay? And I want to be sensitive to those people. But the far majority of people just don't really have a plan and have never sat down to look at the numbers. And so that's what I recommend first is to start by looking at the numbers and see, do you really not have anything extra? Or are you choosing to spend the money you could be saving on other things that are more important to you today, like Starbucks, like a new iPhone, like brand name clothing, like a fancy car payment?
Yeah. I remember you were part of the first families that we helped through our nonprofit. And I remember, I was very happy that most of all of them
100%.
100% were able to save How much was the amount? I forgot.
Over our 8th month program,
Okay.
100% of families saved at least $1,000.
$1,000. So,
And some saved $3,000 to $5,000, making again less than $55,000.
and I remember some of the testimonies because one of them lost their job and was able to leave, out of the savings that he was saved through the program. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Maybe you cannot save $1,000 a month, but you can save 25, 50, 100.
Yeah.
We need to start somewhere. That's what I always tell people.
Yeah. The key is sometimes to want less,
Yes.
and having the humility to not worry about what other people think. And in California, especially Southern California, it can be very challenging.
Yeah, especially with social media.
Social media, yeah. And in Orange County and Los Angeles, if you don't have a fancy car, if you don't have fancy clothing, maybe you're gonna let someone else's opinion of you make you feel a certain way. But I think that's something to really ask people first before they say they can't save anything.
Okay, let's say I don't have nothing. I'm typical pastor, 50 years of age. I haven't started my retirement plan or anything. Where can I start?
Yeah. The first place I would start, like I said, is with a plan, right? To write down your expenses.
Budget.
Okay, with a budget, yeah. And to write down your expenses and see what your pay is that you're receiving. And if you have something positive, that you're bringing home more than your base expenses, then the first place I would want you to start is to create what we call an emergency fund. Okay?
Yes.
So we want to set a goal to have some savings aside because life happens. Okay? And as pastors, I know you're people of faith and you're going to trust God, but God also wants you to have a plan for yourself because life does happen. Okay.
Of course.
And sometimes being late for work and having getting a flat tire protected you from getting an accident because God had a bigger plan for you.
Of course.
But that flat tire is still an expense you have to cover.
Yeah.
Right.
$200-$300 at least.
Yeah. So what I recommend for people is to start with what we call just a starter emergency fund of getting somewhere between $500 to $1,000 and just put that in a savings account that is just there for emergencies. And the reason why I recommend that is because if you don't, what's probably going to happen is you're going to put that expense on a credit card and then you're going to get into debt, right? So we want to stay out of debt if all possible. So, for most people that are starting, the first question I have is, do you have credit card debts? Or big student loan debts? Those are things to consider. Yeah. But the first thing is, let's at least get $1,000 aside in a savings account that just is out of our mind. You could put that in a sock drawer. You could put it in an envelope under your bed. You can hide it somewhere. That's fine. Because about 76% of people in our country don't have $1,000 saved of cash that they could get access to at any time.
In cases of an emergency.
Right. Yeah.
Like 75%?
About 76%.
76%.
Last I read.
So,
yeah, and 64% don't even have $400
yeah, I know.
of cash. Okay,
Yeah.
So that's the first thing is, to get a little bit of emergency fund aside just in case something happens so that we can avoid you going into debt.
Okay, let's say I have saved $1,000 to $2,000 in my, savings account or my checking account, and but I want to start saving for retirement.
Okay.
So where do I go? Do I need to go to the bank, or where do I start?
Yeah.
Or what are the plans, or the basic plan?
Let's talk about a couple basic plans.
Okay.
So if you're a pastor, you might have what's called a 403B available to you. Okay, that's through your church generally, and that's a retirement plan that you can get that's very low cost. And so that might be a place to start. If you don't have that, then you want to look at an account called a IRA. Okay, stands for Individual Retirement Arrangement or Individual Retirement Account.
Yeah. Let me just mention something about, especially with some of the pastors that are watching this program are part of the Assemblies of God, and through the Assemblies of God, we have available a plan that is offered to the churches and to us from I forgot the name, but it's AG Financial Services, and they have a plan that it have different letters, 403B. 403B. That's what they offer us through the Assemblies of God. What is the difference between 403B and 401k?
Well, they're actually very similar. It's just the 403b is easier to deal with as far as paperwork.
Okay.
The 401k has a lot more legal paperwork that you have to deal with, so it's a little bit more of a headache. But the 401k sometimes can be lower cost, but it's more headache. The 403b is very easy to deal with.
Okay.
So it's much easier to get started with that.
Okay. So, but you recommend either one, if it is offered. And how does it work? Let's say I choose to have out of my monthly check, $100.
Yeah.
So how does it work in
Yeah.
that plan?
So the first step is that if you're listening to this today and you say, I want to get started for retirement, you just have to make a decision, okay, that you want to start saving something.
Okay.
And that's really the first place. And then the reason why I like the 403bs or the 401ks is because you can have that automatically taken out of your paycheck.
That's huge.
Okay. And because I know humans. Okay. That's one thing I know now is with humans.
Yeah.
Is humans sometimes have good intentions. They want to do the right thing, but life gets busy. Right. So if you can do something like a 403b and just automatically start contributing, I like to say, let's start at 5% of your pay. Okay. So if you let's just make up a number here, $4,000 a month, that would be $200 per month. Okay. That'd be $50 per week, depending how you get paid. And after, the nice thing about the 403b is the money's going to go in before you get any taxes taken out of it. So I know some
So
pastors.
you get to deduct that amount from your taxes.
That's correct.
When you do your declaration of taxes.
That's correct.
Okay.
So even though you're putting in $50, it might only feel like $35 that you normally would have taken home.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad to start. So if you can start with something like that, and there's options too that you can set up a match, that you can get a match on your 5%, so that you put in 5 and maybe your church puts in 5. That's a really great way to start because then you're going to double your money right there.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay taxes on the money that the church pays on my account.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So that's a tax-free contribution that can go to you as well. But the first place, if you do the automatic contribution, some research has said that it is 19 times more likely that you're going to save if you automate your contributions.
Yeah, and it is true. I became totally sold to that idea of automatic when I started using the apps, Acorn and Stash. Because I put about $100 a month automatic deduction every month, plus the cents, like 5 cents, 30 cents.
Saves the change.
Yeah. Okay. So at the end of the year, I was surprised that I had almost $4,000, and I didn't feel it. I didn't notice it. But I have $4,000 to go on a nice vacation now.
This is what I'm saying, that most people could save.
Yeah.
Again, I try to be sensitive because there are people out there that are really struggling to get by. But the majority, and I'm talking over 80% of people I've ever spoken with, and we've spoken with thousands and thousands of people at this point, over 80%, I'll even say over 90, could save at least something. And I'll tell you, if you've bought in a Starbucks, if you've bought in a new iPhone in the last 3 years,
iPhones.
If you bought in brand name clothing, or if you have a car payment and you're driving a Mercedes or a big SUV when you could be driving a Toyota Corolla and putting money aside, again, these are choices.
Yeah,
these are
it's a
choices
choice,
people
yeah.
choose to make, right? So I think a 403b is a good place to start. And if you don't have that available, then you can open an account called an IRA. And banks are an okay place to do it. But to be honest, there's some apps that you can get it right on your phone that are very easy to deal with. And so 3 that I like are Betterment is a great one to start with.
Okay.
I like Acorns because Acorns, what that does is it keeps the change, right?
Yeah.
So if you spend $3.45, it'll round up to the next dollar. So it'll put 55 cents in, and it'll put it in an investment account. Once you save at least $5, it'll start investing, and every time you save $5, it'll start investing. But that's one that anybody can do that, right? But the key is getting started, because savings and investing is like, do you remember the old cartoons where they would start with a rock or a piece of coal at the top of the hill when it was snowy out, and they would throw it down the hill and it would catch a little bit of snow, and it would start really small. But then as it rolled down the hill, it would get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's how investing works.
Yeah.
Where you've got to start small, but it takes a few years to get the snowball rolling. But once it gets rolling, within 15 years, sometimes, or 20 years, you're making more money from your investments than you make from your job. And that's when things get interesting, but you have to have that long-term view. So 403b or a IRA, or a Roth IRA.
Okay. Are IRA and Roth are the same, or what is the difference between
Let's talk
the two?
about that.
Okay.
So it's called a traditional IRA or a
Okay.
Roth IRA.
Okay.
A traditional IRA, you put money in this year and you get a tax deduction today. Okay. So if you put $1,000 in, then $1,000 comes off of your income that you have to pay taxes on.
So let's say if I make $30,000 and I put $2,000, let's say, so I only pay taxes on 28,000.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So you
So
only
it's
pay,
an immediate savings every year.
then you save taxes today.
Mm.
But and then that money you're going to invest it inside your inside of your IRA in something called mutual funds. Okay, mutual funds or index funds, and all this is just stocks and bonds. Again, we're getting a little bit into this. Well, we can talk about this in a little bit, but you just put it in the IRA to get started. So you get a tax deduction today. Then that money's going to grow, and then later in retirement, generally in your 60s, so you can take money out of that after 59 and a half without a penalty. Then when you take the money out, you're going to pay taxes in the future on what you put in and whatever grew inside of that account. Okay, so that can be good. If you think your taxes are going to be lower in retirement, then you want to do a traditional IRA generally.
What do you think usually is less for most people?
For most people, yes.
Yes.
Most people, yes. But if you're young, there's
And
another
just-
type
and
of
just
account
Okay.
called the Roth IRA. Okay.
It's an IRA, but it's called Roth. It's like a different version.
Correct. So the way the Roth IRA works is you pay taxes on the money today. Okay, so you take that $2,000. If you're making $30,000, you take $2,000 out of your pocket, you pay tax today. But then you put that $2,000 in the Roth IRA, and then you invest that money, and then that money's going to grow until you take it out. But the beautiful thing is you never pay taxes on any of the growth later.
Yeah.
And so
It's tax-free later.
right. So if you're young, Roth IRAs are very powerful. And you can always do half and half. If you're below 50 years old, you can put up to $6,000 in an IRA. And so if you want, you can put $3,000 in a traditional, $3,000 in a Roth. Nothing wrong with that. Or you can put $6,000 in either one. If you're 50 or older, you get what's called a catch-up contribution, and you could put another $1,000, so $7,000 total.
Yeah. So personally, I'm putting everything that I save in a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
So I don't want to pay taxes later because, I think it's better for me.
Well, let's look at the country right now.
Yeah.
We just printed about $6 trillion. Like, people don't understand how big $1 trillion is. It is a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
We in the last year,
And eventually we're gonna have to pay everything.
there's going to be two ways to pay for it. Okay, there's going to be two ways to pay for it.
Yeah.
But the amount of money we printed in the last year was more money than we've printed in the history of the
I
United
know, in the
States.
history of
Okay,
the country.
it's
I know.
crazy. So how you pay for that? We're going to pay for it someday. The front door is increased taxes. The back door is what's called inflation.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's when inflation is, think about back in the 80s or 90s when gas was $1 in California, and now it's $5.
I know.
That's because of inflation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So money lose value.
The value of your money goes down. This is why it's so important that the people we're talking to need to invest money. Okay, saving is good. We want to have an emergency fund, but investing money where you earn interest on there is so important because it will keep up and the value of your money will grow over time.
I know that you have some graphics. Okay, do you want to show us so people can see, how this magic of, compound interest works?
Sure.
It's very interesting because you may think, oh, but I don't have a lot of money, but you will see in this graphic. Well, Jason is going to explain it better, but this will be very good for you to understand the importance to start early or start, whatever you're, if you're 50 or 55, it's better to start, well, I'm going to let Jason explain now,
Yeah, sure.
the compound interest.
So what this graph is showing is the difference between if you put $1,000 in an account and you invest the money and you earn 8% average return. And
Which is it the typical amount
8%,
historically?
if the what's called the stock market, the S&P 500, the U.S. stock market has earned on average about 10%.
So it's more than that then.
Generally more, but 8% is if you have a mixture of stocks and bonds. So it's
Okay.
kind of a, I would say, moderate mix.
Moderate.
Okay, it's a moderate mix.
Like safe.
Yeah, I would say pretty safe. Yeah, pretty
Okay.
safe. I mean, it can go up and down a little bit, but over time, it's been very safe. Okay, so if you started with $1,000, okay, so this is an example of somebody who was 25 years old
Okay.
until 65. Okay, so if they put $1,000 in at 20 years old, and they earn 8%, that $1,000 at 65 is going to be worth $20,000. So it's worth 20 times the value that it started because of the interest that was earned. But if you only earn 2%, where you just kept it in a savings account, for example, well, then that $1,000 only turned into $2,000, $2,165. So it doubled over 40 years.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of my money going 20 times.
I know.
Okay.
And even banks don't pay 2% now. They pay like less than 0.5%.
0.5 if you're lucky.
I know.
So this is why investing is so important. And now is a great time to get started, to be honest, because people are worried about the economy and worried about things going on. But in 2020, we had the largest savings rate ever in the U.S. So there was the most debt and the most savings ever in the U.S. Most of these people's stimulus checks, they saved them or put them, or paid off their debt. But that's setting us up. And plus all the stimulus money that came, that's setting us up for probably a good economy these next 5 to 10
I
years.
know, especially the market is going to go up a lot.
Well, we have to be careful, okay?
Well,
because
yeah.
you have to be careful because the market can go up and down. We'll show some examples in a second, but it can go up and down. But over time,
Yeah,
over
the key word, over time.
right, over 15 years, you never would have lost money.
Yeah.
Okay? So money that you're saving, that could be for money you need in the next 5 years. Okay, you don't really want to invest that too aggressively because you might lose that. But money you don't need for 5 years or more or 10 years or more, that's money you should be investing for the long term. So what this graph is showing that, in the short term, so if you look at here between years 1 and 7, you don't really see much difference during that time.
No.
It doesn't appear to look very different. But once you get to year 11, 12, 13, 15, it really starts to separate off. And this is why, if you look at the average age when people have savings, if you look at people's savings around between 20 to 50, it's actually pretty low. But once people hit 50 and they have some money saved, that's when they start to see the money go up a lot. So when you look at people's average savings and they show people that are in 60 and 70 year range average, it's a lot bigger because of this money's really taken off at the end. But the challenge is sometimes is if I'm telling you at 25 that put this money away, sacrifice today, so in 40 years you can have a lot of money. It's hard for people to understand that concept sometimes.
Yeah, and I could tell you that when I was 25, I was approached by an insurance company that wanted to sell me, I don't know if it was whole life or something, another kind of a retirement plan, and they told me about this. You're 25, because I was 25 actually. And at 65, this is how much you could have, and it seems like probably it's not real, it's not true, it's too much. It's a lot of money now. It's impossible, because I didn't understand what compound interest really is at that time. And also since I was 25, I said, well, I'll start when I'm 35, I'll start when I'm 45. In reality, I started about 50 when I was 50, and now I kind of regret it, because I was probably at this moment I could be in a better position.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Is
that.
there a question, Junior?
Yes, there's
Okay.
a question.
Oh, okay,
Alejandra Garcia says, hello, thank you for talking about this. And she asked, at what age can I open a Roth IRA and where can I open it?
So here's what's interesting, okay? You can technically have one open even before 18,
Okay.
but you have to have earned income, okay? So you have to have a job. So generally 18, whenever you get your first job is when you can open one. And what was the second question?
The second question is, where can I open one?
Yeah, so there's a few good companies that I really like that I think are good places to start. So you can start with the apps like we mentioned, but also some good companies are Vanguard, very good company. Charles Schwab is another good company. And then Fidelity is a pretty decent company as well. So really any of those places are okay to start with.
Would you recommend the apps?
I think for most people, starting with the apps is a really good place because sometimes with those companies, you have to have at least $1,000 saved before they'll let you open and start investing money. The apps, you can start with as little as $1 or $5.
No,
You know,
it's
so
very simple, and
it does
know,
everything for you. You know, so I think the apps are a really good place to start. to be
Yeah, I
honest.
remember about, I don't know, 20 years ago when we just bought this house. I went to a place, I don't remember the name of the company, and I wanted to start an account with them. But when I, asked them what my intention, they said, well, we can, certainly we can help you, but you can start only with $10,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember, I didn't grow up with money. I had to fight. When I talk about that emergency fund, I learned about this step, right? The first step is saving an emergency fund. I had to fight everything in my being because my brain is programmed to spend money. Because, I almost died when I was...
Everyone's.
Well, most people, right?
Yeah.
I almost died when I was 15 in a really bad car accident. So I was just thinking, I need to have fun. I need to enjoy life. But I got towards 30 and I was like, okay, I'm not going to die. What's going to happen when I'm 60? Yeah. So the first part of saving is the hardest because, if you study the brain and the way the brain works, okay, there's something called synapses, and it's like a connection, okay? The way our thoughts are in our brain, there's connections that go in there. And sometimes we have to rewire those connections because we have a program. Like if you think about ourselves as computers, because our brains are really computers at the end of the day, they have a software program that we live by what we saw as we grew up, right? So if you grew up in a poor family and you saw your parents struggling and living in like a scarcity mindset, always worry about having enough money, never being able to pay the bills, fighting over finances, you probably have a software program in your brain that's preventing you from saving money easily, right? So you have to overcome that first, right? And so that's a personal thing that it's just very difficult for many people to start. But it becomes a habit, right? And just like any habit, like eating healthy, working out, it's things that are sometimes not easy to do. But once you get the ball rolling and you get started, it becomes much easier. So that's why I like people just starting small and just, if it's $50, if it's something, just start with the behavior and start with something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question,
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for asking the question. So,
Yeah.
keep asking those very important questions.
Yes. Another question that came in is, do you need to be a citizen to use these investments?
So technically, if you have a visa and an ITIN, you can do it. Okay. So that's the technology.
Like tourist visa?
You have to have a work visa, I think.
Work visa.
Yeah. So there's some things being talked about right now where people are going to be getting work visas and social security cards. And if you have that, then I think you're going to be able to do it. I don't think you don't have to be a full citizen to.
Okay. Because before the program, we were discussing about the new program the state has, Cal Savers. Can you tell us? Because I believe people with IT number can start a plan with Cal Savers.
Yeah. So California has a program called Cal Savers. And generally, what it is a program designed to help you save money out of your paycheck. So if you don't have a 401k at work, there's no workplace savings plan, you can get connected to a Cal Savers program. And what it does is generally automatically opt you in to saving 5% of your pay. And it actually goes to an account that's like a Roth IRA. So it's a very simple way to get started. So that's a great way to go.
And if people want to start something like that, where do they go?
If they need to talk to their employer first.
It's through their employers.
Yeah, but if they want to do their own, they can open up their own Roth IRA.
Without going to Cal Savers, they can do it themselves.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Couple things.
Any other question,
That was the one that I told you was from Grace, and Alejandra asked, "Can I open a Roth IRA with an ITIN number?" So you guys answered that.
Okay.
So that is the answer for that one, Alejandra.
Okay. Can you go to slide number 8? I believe it is there. Okay. So this is something we have to be aware of if we're talking about investing here. Okay. A lot of people get very uncomfortable with investing because they hear these stories where, what if I lose my money? Okay. And here's the thing is if you don't take your money out when the market goes down, you never lose. Okay. But sometimes that can be very difficult for people because they can really freak out. But if you look at long periods of time here, so what this graph is showing is from 1990 to 2018, the whole history of the market. So you can see that it started.
So that's 28 years history.
About 28 years. As you can see, The market has, this is the U.S. stock market called the S&P 500. It's the biggest 500 companies. So this is companies like Apple, Facebook, Google, those type of companies,
Walmart.
Amazon, Walmart, Target. As you can see, this graph has gone up and down over time. And there has been points where it's gone down. But as long as you haven't sold, look where you would have been at today.
Yeah.
Okay? And so this is the hard
Amazing.
part for a lot of people that don't understand
It's
this.
amazing.
Is that the idea is that if you have money that you need in 5 years or less, it should not be invested. Okay? Because if you look how long things have gone down for, if you look at like 2000, by 2006, 2007, it was back up again. And then it took a dip again. And then 5 years later, it was back up again. And then now 8 years later than that, it went up a lot. And if you look at over the last 5 decades, okay, so from 1970 to 2020, over 50 years, 3 of the decades you would have not had anything down. 2 of the decades would have been down a little bit. But if you kept in your money over the whole time, you would have made, I think it's maybe 500% on your money, something like that. It's a big number. I don't have that graph with me today.
Wow.
But the key is you don't want to take the money out. The second thing is called diversification. Okay? So you don't want to have only stocks. You want to have something called bonds. Okay? So bonds are basically like you're lending money to a company and they pay you an interest rate. So it's like debt essentially to them. But if you have a mix of stock and bonds, then your money won't go up and down as much. But again, we're getting a little bit ahead here on the technicality. But this is something I want to show you that over long periods of time, the market has always gone up, but in short times, it can go down, over different time periods. Can you go one slide? I think it is forward to number 9. No, maybe go to number 11. Maybe that's the one. Okay. So this is when you mentioned somebody talked to you at 25 and you said, oh, no, I got time to wait. And then you waited till 50. Okay. So this is an example of what somebody would have done if they started at age 20. Okay. So in this country, if you start at age 20 and you put away $200 a month and
$200 a month.
Okay, $200 a month, and you put it and you earn 8%. And if you put your money in like the S&P 500 or just general investments like that, you easily would have earned 8%. If from age 20 to age 60, or 65, I think it is here. So 45 years. Your account would be worth $1,086,000
By the
by the time you're 65.
okay.
From starting with $200 a month, that's $50 a week. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you wait till 25, you wait just 5 years, that $1 million goes down to $730,000.
Huge difference.
So by waiting
So
5 years,
but it's a huge difference.
you're giving up $250,000.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. By waiting from 20 to 30, which most people think is still young, you've now gone from $1 million down to $487,000 with that same $200. So you lost half your money, but you only waited 10 years. So if you put $200 a month, which is $2,400 a year, times 10 years, that's $24,000. But because of what we talked about called compound interest, you didn't put in $24,000 and you lost $500,000. It's crazy, right?
I know.
But it seems unreal, but this is just how the math works. And this is
I
why
know. Now I understand it. But when I was 25, I said, no, I'll just wait. I'll do it later, and it's easy. I'll catch up. But no, it's after when I was 25, between 25 and 35, it was even harder because I had 4 kids.
Kids, yeah. There's always something that's going to come up.
Yeah.
But this is just financial literacy.
Yeah.
No one ever
it
taught
is.
me. I didn't know about IRAs or mutual funds. I didn't know anything about that. I knew about a
had no
business.
I had no idea how
Yeah.
any of these things for me. This is
Me either.
like
You weren't born
totally-
here. I was born here, and I still didn't know. So this is knowledge that we're trying to bring to anybody watching this today. That the earlier you start, the better. Because even 5 years can make such a big difference. And look at from 30 to 35, that $1 million went to 322, and waiting till 40 years old to 65. Now we're at $200,000 for that 200. So it doesn't mean you can't still earn money, but you have to save more than $200, right? That's the key. Is if you're starting late, you have to save more.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah.
Especially the last 2 years, I've been trying to save as much.
Yeah.
I know I just had to discipline myself, and also Automatic withdrawals are key for
Yeah.
me now because I consider that as a like another payment
Right.
that I need to make, and it made a huge difference. I have saved more money the last 3 years
Mm-hmm.
than the last 15 years. Yeah, together,
Right.
3 times as much
Right. And-
by doing it automatically. And of course, and I every time that I have something left, I immediately put it into my retirement.
no, absolutely. But the key is getting started.
Yeah.
And then once you get started, finding ways. How can I earn extra money? How could I
Mm-hmm.
save more? How could I spend less? And then just keep putting into to your account. And the reason why I like the Roth IRA is because let's say you have $1 million. If you have that money in a Roth IRA and it's tax free, versus in a traditional IRA, you might have saved a couple $100 on taxes each year. But if you have to pay tax on $1 million, that might be a couple $100,000 that you
It's
lose.
a lot of money that you're gonna be losing through taxes.
Right. So the
Yeah.
Roth IRAs, I really like them. So if you're
Yeah.
making, anywhere below, let's say $80,000, as a married couple, Roth IRA is kind of no question. If you're making over $80,000 and then maybe you're going to be lower taxes later, maybe a traditional is better. But
Mm-hmm.
I think taxes are going to go up personally over time. And I mean, the current president's already said they are, so we
Yeah.
get ready for it.
And
So if you put money in
they're gonna
today,
have to pay all the money that they printed the last 3 or 4 years.
well, it's never going to get paid back. It's never going to
Well,
get paid back.
They're gonna print more.
They're going to print more, and well, what's going to happen is the cost of everything is going to go up,
Yeah, inflation.
right? And there's
Yeah.
going to be more fees on
Yeah.
things, and more DMV fees, more
I
business
know.
fees. That's how it's going to get paid
Somehow
back.
they're gonna generate the money. What I would say, to a pastor that is listening, because I understand exactly your situation, because I struggle to start, because I always saw the finances of the church, and I said, no, I'll wait maybe next year because the finances this year are not good. We have some projects. We need to buy this. We need to buy that. But eventually, you're gonna lose time. So what I would say to you is sit with your board, sit with whoever made the decision, financial decisions at the church, and maybe watch this video together so they can understand why it's important you start a plan. What they can do, maybe what I would suggest, maybe you put some amount and ask the church to match whatever you're saving. That would be something, they will help you that way, but you need to start. That's the main thing that you need to take out of this program is you need to start now. And like Jason explained, there are a lot of places, especially through the apps, that is very simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's not complicated. Because another thing that I remember, another question that somebody asked me, I cannot start my retirement plan because it's expensive, too many fees, and they charge a lot. Retirement plans are for rich people.
Well, if you want to be rich someday, you have to have a retirement plan. Okay, so but like the 401ks, they can be expensive, but the IRAs are generally no cost.
Yeah.
Some of the apps do charge $1, $3 a month, something like that, but they do a lot for you, and so you don't really have to do a lot. So I think that's a worthwhile expense. And that $3 it might seem big if you're saving 50, but once you start to a point where you're saving for a few years, you're not really going to feel that very much.
Yeah, and it is good. It is good that you mentioned that it's only $1, $3, $4 here, because people are thinking about hundreds of dollars of cost, which is not true.
Yeah.
Why it could be maybe if they have a bad financial advice.
That's true. Like, some people, and so these are some questions you want to be asking if a financial advisor is trying to help you. Okay, so this might be a good way to shift gears.
Okay.
If you have a financial advisor who wants to help you, ask them, what are all my fees inside this account going to be? Okay, ask them that question, and then ask them, do you make any commissions or kickbacks from the company by me investing my money with you? Okay. Because if the answer to those questions are yes, then you need to find another financial advisor, because that's not necessary anymore. You might have to pay for some help, and it might be good to pay for some help, and maybe you pay a couple $100 to get a session with an advisor to help you get everything set up. But at least you know what the fee is. A lot of people will put, especially pastors, I see this a lot, but they'll put them in investments that are very expensive that make them a lot of commissions, but that are not good for the pastors. So, remembering terms like index funds, Okay, index funds or index ETFs. What the index ETFs are just very low cost. There's a little bit of a fee, but it's like pennies. It's really not very much at all. But the apps, like I said, are basically
and
free.
there are some places that if you leave the money, let's say at 3 months, 5 months, they waive the fee.
Yeah, yeah, that can be.
Because that happened. I have an E-Trade account, and that's they asked me to leave it at least 3 months to waive the fee.
Okay, yeah, that could be good as well. But we just want people to get like, what's the first step to get started? So using an app like Acorns is a good one.
Very simple. Yeah, just go to if you have an iPhone, where they can get the apps.
Yeah, it's on the App Store, on iPhone App Store. My favorite one is Digit. Okay.
Digit.
So Digit's my favorite one. And
That's how it's called, Digit?
Digit, Digit.
Okay. So if you're listening, you can go to your app store and download it and just play with it. And if you want to start the account, that would be a good place to start.
So here's
how does it work?
Here's how Digit works. This is why I like it. So I save money every month, like on my automatic savings, but I still use Digit. Okay. Because what Digit does is it'll connect to your checking account. Okay. That you spend from, and it will learn about how much you spend, and then it'll find money that you're not planning to use, and it'll pull out $1, 50 cents, $3, $5, and it just pulls out little bits of money and it puts it in a savings account for you automatically. If you ever need it, you can always transfer it back at any time. But they just open an investing portion on there where you can open a Roth IRA right inside Digit, and it'll automatically save for you for retirement. And so I think their fee's $3 or $5. They just raised it to $5. But you can actually even hook up your credit cards, and it'll help you pay off your debt. You can hook up your phone bill. It'll help you pay off your phone bill. You can hook up your student loans. It'll help you pay off your student loans. And so you don't have to do anything almost anymore except sign up for this app and let it do what it does. And so that's why I like that one, because even if you don't know anything, if you start with that, I think you get a free trial for maybe 3 months. So then the $5, is easy to save. But that app can help you so easily to start up. But once you are good at saving money, then I might recommend going to E-Trade or going to Vanguard once you have the habit in place. But I'm telling you,
Betterment also.
Betterment is great. I love Betterment. But there is, I don't know what you want to call it, but there's an energy, there's a frequency around saving money.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So people don't need to have an advisor if they open their accounts through the apps?
If you're just getting started, the apps are fine. Okay? Because, if you don't know anything, I think it's good to get an advisor. Honestly, if you just watch our trainings here, Darima and I did a series. We taught basically everything you need to know, right? We did that recently. You can find that on our website, the Idaho CDC website.
Yes, and through this page, Instituto Avance Latino, and also through the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
everything is there, so you can watch them, and you like you said, you will get the knowledge, everything that you need to know about investing.
Yeah. So, but here's the good thing about having an advisor, is about the accountability, right? So just like having a spiritual advisor can keep you accountable for maybe doing other things you shouldn't be doing. Yeah. It's similar to that, right? So I have people in my life, because there's things I need to do. And like for my business, I have a lot of compliance for the government. I don't like doing that stuff. So I hire somebody to make sure that I have to check in with them to make sure that it's done. And so being a financial advisor, we work with a lot of younger guys and women, mostly guys that are in the 40s and 50s, that just need someone in their corner that's like on their shoulder and makes them think twice about going to eat out for $150 if they haven't hit their savings goal yet. So that accountability sometimes can be good for people. And think about like a personal trainer at a gym.
Yeah.
Anybody can go to the gym and go out in the street and go running. But if you have to show up to an appointment and you're paying somebody $60 an hour, $100 an hour for an appointment, you're more likely to do the things that you need to do. So, for everybody, if it's right for you, I think it's a good idea. But if you're just trying to get started today, just download Digit, download Betterment, and just start saving $50 a week, and just start.
Yeah, let's start. It's as simple as that. Well, I don't know. Is there any other questions, Junior? No? Is there anything else, Jason, that you wanted to add?
Let's see. I think
you have a lot of information.
There's some things we can talk about here, but I think we cover most of what we talked about here. So, what I really want to tell people, how long are we at right now, Carlos, for the stream?
1 hour.
Oh, we're at an hour. Okay, we should wrap up. Okay, so
I have just one last question before you finish whatever you want to say.
I just told you I love talking about this. I can talk about it for hours. So sure, go ahead. What's your question?
No. Okay, you were going to say something. Otherwise, you lose, your train of thought.
Yeah. So what I want to tell people is, saving money, really becoming wealthy, is not a matter of how much you earn. It's a matter of how much you can save, and it's a daily battle with yourself to decide what's most important to you. Is a $7 Starbucks worth giving up your retirement and having money to go retire and do what you want to do or go on vacations? And that's really the challenge. It's 90% mental and 10% behavior. And it's really overcoming those things each day. And that's why I like the automatic savings, because it takes it
for me, it's a
takes
key.
it out of the behavior.
That's a key.
But if you did,
Automatic.
but it's all about a decision. It's about a decision to make a choice that I'm going to be somebody who plans for my future, and I'm going to change this. And it's really hard when you look at that graph that it might be 6 or 7 years before you really start to see the money build up. But you said even after the first year you save $4,000, that's $300 a month. That's not a lot of money, but it adds up very quickly. Yeah. But it's about diligence. And you said something. I went to Easter service to watch you deliver the sermon, and you said a couple things that really stuck with me. And I want to talk about these real quick.
Okay.
Here's what you said. Let's see.
Hopefully it was good.
Yeah, no, it was good. We're going to ask you a question while I look this up, because I took a note on it.
Okay.
What was your question that you had?
Oh, it's related, but not totally related. It's about, because this is another question that somebody asked me. It's about Social Security, because they opt out of Social Security.
Oh, okay.
Can they go back in again? Can they start paying taxes?
Okay.
And have, when they retire, Social Security?
Let's go a little long and spend some time on that.
Okay.
I want to talk about these things you said, and then we'll do maybe 15 minutes on Social Security, because I think that's really important. So, so some things you said, okay, and this is for our pastors, okay. You said we have to have conviction, okay, in our faith, and that's what you're talking about there. But it's the same thing with our finances.
Yeah, same thing.
It's really all tied together, because it is a spiritual issue. You have to have conviction and make a decision that you're going to do this. You're going to be somebody that saves. You're going to be somebody that has money for emergencies, and you're going to be somebody that invests for the future. And even if you're 50 or 55, it's not too late. But what's going to happen is you're going to see your kids observe what you're doing, and they're going to pick it up. So even if you don't end up with $1 million, that's okay. Do it for your next generation. Because I know we got Carlos, Sammy, Joshua, all starting investing, and they all have a Roth IRA open with some money going in it. So we know they're going to be millionaires at some point. It's just a matter of time. The second thing you said was be consistent.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not about, a lot of people want to become a millionaire overnight. They see this stuff online where, the overnight win on the lottery and those type of things. That's not the mindset. Okay. The mindset is death by 1,000 cuts in reverse. It's putting away $200 every single month, no matter what, and then increasing that each year. Right. So if you put away, let's say you make $50,000 a year, and you start to say, I want to put away 5% of everything I make, right? If you're tithing 10%, I think you should save 10% for yourself. That's what I think. But let's start with 5. So 5% is $2,500 per year if you're making $50,000. That's about $200 per month. Next year, set a goal for 6%, okay? So 6% is about $3,000. So that would be about $500 per month instead of $400 per month. So that's, an extra $25 per week. Then the next year, go to 7, and then 8, and then 9. And so within 5 years, you'll be saving 10%. Within 10 years, you'll be saving 15%. And you probably won't even feel it, by the way, because maybe you'll get a raise at work, other things like that. But the consistency.
That's important.
That's what Okay, and then something else you said is live with excess abundance, okay? So abundance is a mentality. And this is something where so many people think they can't save. But here's what I know. If you just save, the money's just going to show up for you. And you might not believe me right now, but it's going to take a while. This is a battle. And this is where I truly believe that Satan exists in this world, okay? And how he exists is in your thoughts, telling you that you can't do things because you don't have enough. That's what it is, right? But if you just have faith that I'm just going to save the money and then I'm going to trust God to take care of it, I bet you anything the money shows up. And I would love to see anybody call me, do this for a year, and you fight for a year, and you tell me if the money didn't show up. I've never had anybody have the money not show up. Because if you believe that in abundance that the money will just be there because you're destined to be wealthy at some point, the money will show up. So those are 3 things that when you said those about faith and about how we should operate in our faith, I actually apply those same concepts to finances.
Well, biblical principles applies to all areas of our
100%.
lives. Yeah,
Well,
all areas. Yeah.
Isn't money the second, money is the second most mentioned term in the Bible.
Yeah. Well, is I don't know if it's the second, but it's mentioned more than a lot of things that we have dear as sacred. Doctrines that we have. Money is a very common topic throughout the Bible.
I think it's 2,500 times.
Not only in the Old Testament, but especially in the Old Testament, but also in the New Testament.
Yeah.
And especially Jesus talked a lot about money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So money it's for me it's a spiritual. It's not material, and it reflects. Money reflects how we deal with money, how we treat money, reflects the condition of our hearts.
100%.
That's what the Bible says. That we're not supposed to love money. Because the root of all evils. But at the same time, not loving the money, but being good stewards of the
Right.
of everything that it has given us. That's 100%. What the Bible says.
Right. And our culture, they leave out that part. They say money's root of all evil. That's not what it says. It says the love of money.
The love of money, of course.
Yeah. And it's not about loving the love of money. It's about being a good steward and handling everything you're given with the ultimate diligence that you can.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I bet you if I sit down with 90% of people, we'll find $50 a month.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
At least $50
At least.
a month, yes.
But so Social Security.
Social Security is huge because pastors have a special, I don't know if
It's an exemption.
It's an exemption
Yeah.
because they're, it's about belief. Some pastors don't believe Social Security because they say, I don't want to depend on the government. I depend on God.
Right.
It's a belief. And the government has allowed, for ministers to exempt themselves. So I believe that in the past, some pastors may say, but now he understands the importance. For me, the importance of also Social Security, it's okay about the money because, $2,000-$3,000, whatever I'm going to be getting when I retire is probably I'm going to need it. But for me, it's about the medical part.
Yeah, Medicare. Yeah.
Medicare.
So let's talk about that. So there is an exemption, a religious exemption that you can have to opt out of Social Security. So if you opt in, then you have to put in 6.4% of your money for Social Security, of your income, and 1.45% for Medicare. Okay, so Medicare is retirement health care. Medicare is a system that retirees go on once they turn 65. They can go on. They can have government health care. Essentially costs them about $130, $160 a month, and they can have health care for the rest of their life that covers most of everything. Not everything, but it covers most of everything. So you have to pay 6.2, but then your church or organization also has to pay 6.2. Did I say 6.4 or 6.2?
6.2.
Okay, yeah, it's 6.2 and 6.2. So together it's 12.4, and then plus the another 1.45% of your income for Medicare. So it's about 15% that goes in there. So this is the thing is, it's another one of those automatic things that it's going to come out of your pay every single year. And so I do believe most pastors should participate, especially if you're not saving money somewhere else, because this is going to at least guarantee you something. And what will happen is when you turn at least 62, you'll be able to claim a benefit from the government that will last for life. And that benefit goes up a little bit each year. And generally, the average Social Security payment is about $1,500 a month, but it can go up to over $3,000 per month, and you get that the rest of your life. With Medicare, you're going to have health care as well that will help take care of you if you were to get sick, in your later years. So we do have the exemption. And here's the tough part for me is, since knowing what I know today, I would rather take my 12.4% and invest it myself because I can do better than the government, right? But I've been paying 12.4% since I've been working at 15. I didn't know anything about investing at that point. So, again, there's good and bad ways to look at it. But if you're somebody now, maybe you're 50 years old and you've opted out, you have to have what's called 40 quarters of qualified contributions, okay? So right now I think it's about $1,300 $120 per quarter of income for you to qualify. So most everybody's going to qualify that makes halfway, some money. But if you don't have 40 quarters,
So that's about 10 years.
it's 10 years, then you're not going to qualify for anything from Social Security. So even if you're 50 or 55, I would still recommend signing up for it and just making the sacrifice, because you will have at least something coming in as a guaranteed amount of money for the rest of your life, when you retire after
And not only for
60.
you, for your spouse in case you
That's the other thing, okay?
pass away.
So the way it works is, even if your spouse doesn't work, they can get what's called a spousal benefit. And so they can get up to 50% of what you get. So if you're married and your payment is $1,500, well, then even if your spouse never worked, they can get an additional $750, which would give you $2,250 to live on forever. And then if one of you passes away, you get to keep the main benefits. Okay, so the $1,500 would give them something forever. So just imagine if you have a pastor who's never contributed, they pass away. Most men pass away before women. They pass away and then they leave their wife with nothing.
I know.
No Social
it's
Security, no
hard.
savings.
Yeah,
It's very
and
difficult.
sometimes it's hard to comprehend, especially because a lot of people see, famous pastors, huge churches, and driving nice cars. They think all pastors are the same.
Mm-hmm.
But I been in situations that I needed to help pastors because they pass away, and the church is washing cars to collect money to bury the pastor because he didn't have a retirement plan. He didn't have a nothing saved. So it's hard to see that.
Right.
Super hard, especially during this pandemic. I was helping a pastor of a family, because he passed away and he didn't have no money, nothing, and I was trying to save money, to the family because they didn't have the money to bury the pastor. So it's hard.
These are the things.
Yeah.
I have people call me and asking me for help, and they say, I have $30,000 saved. I can't work anymore. My body doesn't work, and I don't have enough money to survive. And what do I do? And so, what we're talking about today is the information you need,
Yeah.
so that you don't end up like this, because we
Yeah.
see this in the work
Yeah.
that we do,
Yeah.
and we're trying to make a change in the world. And so, but at the end of the day, people have to do this for themselves.
Yeah.
And it does come down to personal responsibility. No one's going to do it for you.
Yeah. It's like in my case, I had a long discussion with my wife about, what are we gonna do? We're about 50 years of age. We haven't saved a lot. In reality, we had nothing almost. And the only plan that I had for a long time, but never contribute a lot or much, is the plan that we get through the Assemblies of God that we enrolled like 20 years ago. But we decided, let's start. We need to do something. We need to save somehow. We still have a lot of things to to pay, but we need to start. And it's gonna be like another bill that we're paying, like the electricity or the telephone. So, and that's how we started about 7-8 years ago.
And actually, did you know the government wants you to save? Did you know that? They want you to save for retirement?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's something called the Savers Credit.
What is that?
Okay.
The Savers Credit.
So this is huge for anybody who's in that lower income tier.
Listen to this.
This is
very important.
This is a big deal. Okay. If you're making between $30,000 to $60,000,
Okay.
you can get something called a Savers Credit, which is a refundable tax credit. Okay. So how it works is you can put in, depends on your income, so there's different levels, but the maximum is if you put in $2,000 to an IRA or a Roth IRA,
Okay.
and you make below, I think it's $60,000 at this point, the government will give you back $1,000.
For you to put into your account.
You can do whatever you want with it.
Oh, even
but they'll
expend it?
give you $1,000 back on your tax return.
Oh, okay. I see.
So you put in $2,000, the government's going to give you $1,000.
Okay. Well,
If you make higher money,
it's like an incentive.
it's an incentive.
Okay.
So if you make higher money, it's $500 back, but still it's free money from the government to save in an IRA. The government tries to incentivize us to do certain things, but if you just put in $2,000 and you get $1,000 back, that to me makes a lot of sense for me to do that. But most people don't know about that.
Yeah.
So that's something else.
How do they claim it?
You claim it on your tax return. Okay, so if you have filed your taxes yet, or if you haven't, ask your tax preparer if they've given you, if you can put $2,000 in, if you have the money. If you don't have it, then you don't have it yet. But if you got your savers credit and then anything you could put in, if you could put 500 in, you'll get back 250.
Maybe this is a good way to invest the stimulus check.
You could put in you could put in your stimulus check. I mean, as long as you have to have earned income. Okay, you have to earn an income.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I mean, they don't know if the money came from a stimulus check or your paycheck.
But as long as you have you're earning money.
If you're employed somewhere,
Okay.
and you earn at least whatever you put in, you're fine. But the savers credit is basically a 50% return immediately on your money for you to put it in there. So these are things that people don't always claim on their taxes. And this is one thing a lot that we look for as financial advisors that people miss, especially when we're working with the lower income people, because a lot of tax professionals just don't do it, or people file their own taxes online and they don't claim it. They do the free tax on IRS, which is fine, but they don't claim the savers credit.
Oh.
And this is free money back you could have. So, with the things we gave today, $100 or $200 a month, get your Social Security in place, claim your things like your savers credits. If you just do these things and start today, you're going to be in a much better place than if you don't start. So, I mean, that's what I just want people to start doing something.
Yeah. Well, this is a very important topic for all of us. And I want to say thank you to Jason for spending time and explaining something that it seems that is very complex and very difficult to understand. It is, some things, Yeah.
It is, but
It is?
look, on my shirt it says keep it simple.
Okay. Keep it simple.
And
You have keep it simple tonight.
that's it. is the first step is just find a way to put $50 a week automatically out of your paycheck. Just do it. Just do it out of your account. Step 1, that's all you need to do. And then once you get to step 2, that's okay. But if you don't start saving something, you can't go to step 2.
Yeah.
But keep it simple.
Yeah, I know that we are people of faith and we believe in God. We at the end we trust in God always. He's the source of our, of our faith, and our lives are in His hands. But at the same time, He gives us the capacity to plan, to have faith. Faith is about seeing the future and have a clear picture in mind of how we're gonna spend, when we reach 65 or 70. One of the good things that I did, we did it about a month, 2 months ago, Jason, that we sat together and we discussed about my financial plan.
Oh, yeah.
About a month ago. Mm-hmm. So now I have a vision of the next at least 20 years of my life. Financially, and everything is in God's hand, but at least I have a plan. I know how to get there, and I more or less have an idea how my financial situation is going to be when I get there. It's about planning. It's about having faith that you're going to reach your goals. That's what it is. It's about having faith. It's not about lack of faith. To the contrary, it's about having the faith that you're going to complete your goals. So this is a very important topic for pastors. And if you have any other questions or anything that you want to reach out to us, we're going to do this also in Spanish pretty soon. And I don't know if you want to add a final word or something, especially to the pastors that are watching the program.
Well, you didn't mention it, but through Ideal CDC,
Oh, yes.
we do offer coaching services that we can help you. We have coaches that can sit down with you and help you
Yes.
look at your expenses, help you create a plan, and help you figure out how much you can save and get you started. So please, reach out. This is what we do as a
Yes.
nonprofit. It's one of our services is
Yes.
financial coaching. So we'd be happy to help.
Yeah, and that is very important, and especially if you're a pastor and you're struggling, that you want to start and you don't know where, reach out to us and we can help you. So, well, this has been a very very much needed, because I was taken to one of the leaders in our denomination and I asked him, what is the average in our denomination, in the Assemblies of God, pastors that are saving for their retirement. And she said, we don't have an exact number, but it's between 65 and 70% don't have. They have zero retirement plan.
Right.
So I'm very glad that we talk about this topic, because this is a very much needed. So I guess that's all we have for today.
Yeah, we went well. If you guys like this, leave us a comment. We can do it
Yes.
again sometime. If you have questions, we're happy to keep doing this. But we need to start at the beginning. That's what we talked about today, and just getting started. So I just want people to take away one simple step, is to write down their expenses and start to save at least something per month, and just start small. And if you need help with it, to reach out to someone at the nonprofit here, and we're happy to help you if you need some help with that. That's all I want people to do, is just to start.
Yeah, the most important thing is to start where you are.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for tonight. Thank you for staying throughout the program. We're glad that you stay, and hopefully you learned something important today for you. Well, until the next program, may the Lord bless you.